Hello, Brad and Sean. This is Christoph with Kaiserworks presenting 2501 East Van Buren concept sketch. So we're presenting a few things here. One is the perspective or the vantage point that we think is the best single image to sell the project as a whole, to communicate what we're doing with the project. And after looking at a number of different vantage points, we selected this one because it allows view into the project so you can pull your eye in while still showing the full width of the project. And it also allows you to see this perspective side. We were looking at another image where we're about 10 feet further towards the right or to the west, and it really, when you do that, you're getting just the straight edge of this, the sign up above, and you're not getting any of this interior perspective over here. And so again, the effort is to pull your eye into the scene. I also feel that this is an opportunity here. We'd like to show this sign off as something that is contributing to the final view. I'm going to go now to the perspective sketch, and I'll be toggling between this, the existing, and also these precedent images. This is a bit of an interesting scenario in that we're not proposing a lot of architectural change. This is going to be a very graphic project. In other words, a lot is going to be done with signage, with paint colors, and sort of two-dimensional application, and that's an effort to keep our costs low, and also it's just the nature of the project. I feel like this is largely um, to your benefit. This is a positive thing because I think a lot can be done with color, typography, signage, and those sorts of things. So as we're looking at this sketch right here, I'll start with the center of the scene. We're showing a bosque of trees at the interior of this space, and that becomes the heart of the project. This is a way of introducing shade. It's also just something that will soften our scene dramatically. We are showing these palm trees having been taken out. That's We could go either way. I think if we would embrace the palm trees, we would plant more of them. But the problem is with palm trees, they're messy. They drop fronds on cars, and they're not doing a lot for creating shade. But that is actually, if you're palm tree lovers, and if I recall correctly from our conversation, you're not. But that is a direction we could go, and given the vintage of this particular architecture, we could go that direction. I mean, you could take this in the direction of like a Palm Springs architecture. I'm going more for a shady enclave. This is a good welcome home in a place like Phoenix, where shade and also coolness. I'm seeing this as having enough shade where you literally experience a coolness as you drive into this place. Something else that we're showing here in this sketch is the idea that and this is something you had mentioned, that this asphalt street coming through would be replaced with something that would be at the same grade, at the same level, elevation of the adjacent parking lots existing. And if I go over to these precedent images, just to acquaint you, on the right side here, top right, these are having to do with the quality of that interior space. So we're talking about introducing some nicer hardscape, using gravel potentially, and then also just the use of trees, creating an environment in the interior that's different than the outside world. So that's this upper right hand corner. This group of images right here has to do with the gate or fence that we're going to use to separate inside from outside. And then everything over here on the left has to do with color, and I'll get back into that later. But we're looking through a perforated, and we're seeing a very light fence with porosity. So you're looking through into this interior world, and potentially the hardscape or concrete that we're introducing for this central area here begins here at the curb. And so as you drive into the property, you know at this point you are entering into a hardscape that is not part of the municipal streets, and we're showing a median that will allow us to have our trees continue right on through from the parking area on the east and the west all the way straight through the street. We're trying to do this without changing the amount of parking you can accommodate. In other words, I do feel like that's actually my truck parked there in this scene right here. I think the parking would be largely preserved, what you're able, how this functions currently as a street could be preserved. This is one question for you. How much do you want to impact the existing parking? My concern is if we touch it much at all, we're going to have to go by today's parking standards, which is going to dramatically reduce the amount of parking that you are able to accommodate. today. So again, back to this image, we have our central gate. So you're able to pull into the property enough to get 2 car lengths approximately away from the curb. You have your automated gate. To the right on this scene, we're showing Blue House Coffee. These guys are a local downtown coffee group that would be, I'm sure, excited at the prospect of doing a project like this. So we're showing some limited storefront glazing on this right-hand side. We see a cafe that spills out that communicates whether or not it's being used or not. Just to have outdoor cafe table and chairs very much softens this scene and makes it inviting. And you're not just passing into a control point. And I think you need these sort of soft cues in an environment like this, especially using building graphics here. And that's what we're denoting here is a simple color blocking technique. And again, when it comes to color, we're gonna have to investigate this in our rendering. We're just gonna have to test a number of things. So when we get to the point of doing the rendering, I think we'll be showing you examples, multiple examples of the direction we think this could go. But if I can just walk us through a few of these. LT York, this building right here, is an example of, I mean, this is showing you an example where you're simply painting the building 2 tones and you're introducing some really beautifully done topography on it, and it just elevates this building significantly without introducing any expensive materiality whatsoever. Some of these other palettes or images are simply referencing potential palettes that have a somewhat retro vibe. And then this one down here, we were liking quite a bit. This is a little bit of Miami. So introducing these dark greens and flamingo pinks potentially is a direction that we could take this building, while the building exterior may remain predominantly white. This was a nice example again of just this is a white stucco surface with great topography and just some internal illumination, and it becomes an inviting thing. And you can just as well imagine where this white stucco surface would continue for, another 80 feet off to the side, and it still works. This is another example of just playful use of color, where there's a datum that is struck and below which is blue, and that's kind of what we're showing in these images here, where I'm seeing potentially even a blue film that goes across the transparent glass, and that's picked up again here, and that could be blue or green, or again, we'll have to play with the colors as we get into the rendering. On this other side here, we're showing, if you look at this scene right here, we are capturing that a little bit of what's going on in this kind of scene here, where you could have just simple graphics on the glass, a lamp on the interior, and a small sitting spot next to the window, and this would be an extension in this case presumably of the office. But again, here I wanted to get your take on, do we want to expose any glass here? We don't need to necessarily, but it does certainly soften the image. I realize there's a vulnerability aspect to that, given where we are being pioneers. Last thing to mention here is the growies. So we have these planting areas in the front, which are great, and we're proposing a low water use. This is either going to be rosemary or yellow dot, but we also thought we could punctuate this with cactus. My concern there is you get one person that comes along and thinks it's going to be great to chop those down, then they can make quick work of a lot of relatively expensive cactus. So that was something else I wanted to discuss with you. Last thing to hit on these precedent images here. One thought we had with the color blocking was if we went a direction where we're painting the building entirely or predominantly white, and then introduce color on the facade that would also bleed down into color blocking in the concrete of this central courtyard, that's something we feel would actually play nicely with the architecture. And anything we can do where we're bringing what we're doing on this interior facade into these spaces, so that this feels not like a parking lot but like a garden. And that's really the main emphasis here, is that this wants to feel a lot more like a garden than a parking lot, even though it's filled with cars. And I think there's a lot of examples in the world of where that's been done successfully. So we look forward to your thoughts on this. Thank you.